Stories, a wave of angry protests over an anti-Islam video made in the United States have hit Western embassies in the Middle East and Africa. In Egypt, protests are continuing late into the night. In Tunisia, at least 2 people have been killed in clashes outside the U.S. Embassy in Tunis. Several protesters managed to break into the building while a separate attack targeted an American school. And in Sudan, at least 3 people died as protesters targeted a number of embassies. Several hundred demonstrators torched part of the German embassy in Khartoum, setting trash cans and cars on fire. For more on the protests, let's go live now to Cairo, where we can speak to Rabab El-Mahdi via Skype. She is a professor of political science at the American University in Cairo. Professor, good to talk to you. When you look at the scenes from the day in Cairo, from in front of the U.S. Embassy, later in the day in Tahrir Square, continuing now in Tahrir Square, tell me who is protesting and why.
There are at least 2 groups of protesters. The group of protesters that are currently the embassy, in front of the embassy, those are actually youngsters. Many of them are not politically affiliated to any tendency, not specifically any part of the political Islamist parties. And then the protesters who were in Tahrir, those are predominantly political Islamist groups who have called for this demonstration, and it included mostly their membership along the lines of older middle-class Egyptians who were supporting the protests.
Okay, let's talk about the first group then, the youngsters who you described as being kind of non-aligned. What are they doing? What are their grievances? Is it about this film, or is it more complicated than that?
It's much more complicated than this. Actually, when you see the breadth of the demonstrations across the Arab world, and when you see that it's not only targeting American embassies, but the German embassy and whatnot, this is not particularly. The movie, the trailer, was just a stimulus. It's a trigger. It's a trigger, but what we're seeing here is a reaction to years of grievances and injustices, a feeling of being patronized and unjustly treated by the so-called West, not just the U.S.
Well, aren't there also, but you can't unwind 30 years or more of policies you disagree with in a matter of days. So how do you see this playing out here? And how does the new president manage this situation where you've got this burgeoning democracy and people getting a sense of what it's like to be able to express themselves, and it being demonstrated and displayed in some cases in a very violent way?
I think the president is caught between 2 kinds of pressure. One is his constituency, and predominantly wanting to come across as someone who's different from Mubarak, who is not completely allied with the U.S. interests. An Islamist president who, by default, needs to be supportive of anything, of any protests against the trailer. And on the other hand, there is the pressure of his obligations as a president, international policy considerations, and whatnot. And between those 2 kinds of pressures, he's trying to strike a balance, whereby.
Can I jump in for just a second here? You mentioned the trailer a couple times. Let me come back to a point on this. It has been denounced by everyone who can denounce it, and I'm wondering if that message has been conveyed. Is it being received? Does it even matter to the people who are protesting in Cairo right now?
Exactly. It was received, but it doesn't matter. This is exactly the point I was trying to explain earlier. Those people are not just protesting against the trailer. They are protesting against many injustices. The trailer is just a trigger. It's just a stimulus. And hence, despite the fact that many people do understand that it's not particularly an American movie in a sense, and that everyone condemned that trailer. But yet, it was it was a justification for them to express their agony and their anger against U.S. And Western policies.
Then, Rabab, there's not much the Americans can do. It's a difficult situation for everyone involved, and maybe this is just something that just has to sort of burn itself out as I look at these pictures, and hopefully no one else gets hurt. Rabab El-Mahdi is with us. She is a professor of political science at the American University in Cairo. Thank you for your time. Protests were also held in Lebanon. At least one person was killed. The unrest coincided with the first day of Pope Benedict XVI's visit.